So, are you with the NPI?
Kind of. I'm helping out around here.
Awesome.
I am actually kind of the founder of an identitarian organization here called Identity Evropa, and so, but I do have kind of a good working relationship somewhat with Richard Spencer here.
Okay.
And so that's why I spotted you out. And,
Yeah, sure.
And was making sure.
Probably do a distraction.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. I don't see why they would have left. So.
What does identitarian mean?
Ooh, that's a long one. Identitarian is you basically have people have identities, and identities is like it's like the lens through which you look at the world, and some of those identities are somewhat arbitrary, or maybe they're kind of to a geographic location, like your favorite sports team and stuff like that.
Sure.
And sometimes people's identities are formed off of that. Sometimes they're formed off of culture or religion, but also race is a major part of that. And so identity is something. I'm sorry, we have tons of camera people coming in here. Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah. So. And so that's a major part of the way we see ourselves in relation to the world, and we're kind of living in a society that has ignored that. It's tried to atomize people, and it was unfortunately the propagation of multiculturalism, multiracialism. Was kind of done. In fact, it was actually here in America. It was kind of done after the fact. We had a law in 1965 passed called the Hart-Celler Act. And prior to that, there were actually limits on immigration, and there was actually regulation as far as where people could immigrate from.
Sure.
And so prior to that, people would immigrate from Europe because that was traditionally where people could come from. They could integrate because not only did they share similar cultures as far as Christianity has been really influential, even though the languages were different, there were some core things that were similar enough to make integration possible.
Sure.
However, so after that we started seeing a massive influx here in America. And as well as the same trend has happened other places throughout the West, which is European-derived nations, as well as Europe. And so this has been done. No one ever voted on this. No one ever wanted this. And kind of what happened was after it happened, it was just oh well, this is happening, so we're gonna kind of just say it was always meant to be like this, and that. That it was a good thing,
So
even though actually the social science shows actually quite the opposite.
What does that science show?
Social science?
Yeah.
The social science on heterogeneous societies, specifically heterogeneously racial or ethnically or religiously, shows that as diversity of these factors increases, social trust decreases, people become more withdrawn, they become less trusting not only of other people in society, but other people of their own ethnic and racial and religious background.
Sure.
And in fact, some of the pioneering work on this was done by a man named Robert Putnam, who was a professor at Harvard. And there's been multiple studies that have actually backed that up. But the study himself, he actually wanted to show that diversity was a good thing, and he actually, when he found the opposite, he actually kind of sat on the data for a few years, and people were like, "What's going on? You got all these grants for this.
Right.
Why aren't you showing the data?"
Sure.
And it was a big blow to him. So we're starting to learn now, and I think the last couple years has really shown us with just the simple how polarized we've become, and the election has really shown that as well. Is that we were told that if we all kind of just became colorblind and didn't look at race, that we'd magically all just get along and so on and so forth, and that's just simply not the case. And that's because identity is a huge part of the way people look at themselves, and people feel that they have interests based on those identities, whether it's racial, whether it's religious, whether it's gender preference or sexual preference or so on and so forth. People have identities, and that's not something that's going to go away anytime soon. So.
Yeah. So, if the problem is multiculturalism, what's the solution?
Well, the solution is to first off, right now we have a society where the mainstream culture promotes certain values, and so as a result of those values, we've kind of ended up where we're at. So, just to give you an example, like. Some of the values would be like I don't know, freedom or non-judgmentalism or things like that. And some of these things are actually like, or equality. That's another good one. Are actually abstractions. They're not necessarily things that actually exist in our in the world we inhabit. We inhabit a hierarchical dimension. Equality would essentially be a measurement of exact sameness.
Sure.
Whereas diversity is a measurement of differences. Well, we live in a world where we live in a diverse world. We live in one that is very diverse, and as a result, that diversity creates hierarchies. And so, I think it really boils down to values, what your values are. Many of us here, many identitarians, we value what we would consider socially progressive policies. Yeah, I can give you my information, and we can continue to talk later if you'd like. But we gotta get out of here.
Okay.
You might want to record this.
What was your name?
Nathan Damigo.
Nathan what?
Damigo.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to actually